Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to be installing a new tire on a lawn and garden rim. And this is a little bit bigger than the really small front tires. This is a rear tire and it is a 23 by 9.5 by 12. And it's on a freshly painted rim. And the paint is Rust-Oleum, so it's super soft. It's only been drying about 5 days. So if you use this tire changer the way they recommend, where you grab the big bar and run it all the way around, it's going to just scratch your lip on the rim beyond belief. So I'm actually going to be using tire spoons. I use this for the bead breaker and then to hold it steady while I use tire spoons to get it off, and it works really well for that. I've got it bolted to a pallet. I'm probably going to get some anchors and just put it in the ground, but right now it's easier because I just have this small pallet, and it just kind of keeps it steady a little bit when I stand on the pallet and lever the tire on. So I'm going to show you my way. I'm sure there's lots of ways to do this, but I'll take you over. I lay all my tools out that I'm going to need on a cart. That's pretty important because you don't want to be working on something and need some spray lube or something else, and you have to stop what you're doing and undo it and walk and go get it. So I lay everything out where it's in hand's reach on my tool cart, and I'll take you over and show you what we're going to use, and then we'll get started. All right, so here's my tools laid out on my tool cart. Obviously, the most important are going to be like tire spoons, a mallet, your lube, to soap everything up so it rides easy in the rim. And then here's some tire holders, and what those do is you push the tire down, and that keeps it in the drop center of the rim. And these are really nice. You just pop them in there, and that way, you don't have to fumble with one hand pushing it down or your knee or anything else. And they don't scratch, so I really like those. These are like rim protectors. Now, I don't really use these. What I do is I try to go from the back side of the rim. So if there is any damage, and it's going to be minimal with these smooth spoons, but you are going to have some on freshly painted rims, especially with soft oil-based paint like Rust-Oleum, unless you let it dry for 6 months or something. So I'm not going to use these, but you could use these. You pop them on the rim, and then you try to pry like that, and it's supposed to protect them. I found them more trouble than they're worth, so I try to just go from the back side of the rim. If possible. It's not always possible depending on where the drop center is, but on these particular rims, the drop center is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if you go from the front or the back. So we're going to go from the back of the rim. And this is the stuff I use. It's Murphy's, and it's like a soap. It's like a concentrated compound. And so if you put a little bit on the bead surface, sometimes it helps seal it, and you don't have a leak between the bead and the rim, which are notorious on lawn and garden tractors. So anyway, all my tools are laid out, so let's go ahead and get the rim. We'll mount it up and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing I do is just take this off, and we'll pull the little holder off. And these are just little pads I made out of anti-fatigue mat material, and they protect the rims, and this protects the bottom rim, and this protects the other side of the rim from the holder there, which will also scratch your rims terribly if you don't do something like this. So what we would do is we would just mount it. The first thing you do is make sure your pin's lined up, and actually I cut a slit in this bottom protector, and it helps hold this in whatever position I kind of want, which is really nice. I see people struggle with that. And just mount that over, and now it almost doesn't move on its own. And again, we're not going to be trying to rotate anything around this, so it shouldn't be an issue anyway. But that's the way we do that. And we just take the top one, bring it down, and that will protect. And we'll get that set. And then we just screw it down. And I see a lot of people really wrench on these things, and for this method, the method I use with spoons, you don't need to. That'd probably be enough, but I go ahead and tighten it, about like that, so it's not going to go anywhere. And then we'll just get some lube on things, and start levering it on. Now the tire's been sitting out in the sun, and that is pretty important with these. Most lawn and garden tires come misshapen, and the smaller the tire, actually the harder it is to get on a rim. So you want to sit out in the sun for a couple hours, or put it in a hot water bath or in front of a heater or something, and get the rubber nice and warm, so it'll conform a little bit better over these rims. Okay, so here's the tire. It's nice and warm from being out in the sun, and just set that right there. And let's get some lube, and we'll spray this down. Now what I do is I actually spray a little bit on here. This is just soap. This is the Murphy's diluted version. You can also use it straight, and I do use it straight on the back of these beads to help it pop the beads into place and to seal them. But for this, we're just gonna lube up a little of this, and we're gonna lube the tire. So let's do that real fast. We'll just take a little bit of the same solution right there, and we will lube each one of the beads. Make sure you get the back as well, right there. Okay, and these tires aren't directional, obviously. It's just for a tractor, so it doesn't really matter. Now the first bead, as you've probably seen if you're watching this, is a lot of times you can just start to push this one over, and that's why it's so important to have these out in the sun. Now that's not going to go. I've got it maybe 80% of the way there. Let me bring you in and show you here if I can. So what I'm going to do is we need to lever that in. All right. So this is where you're probably going to nick up your tire or your rim just a little bit, but these are nice and smooth, so it's about the best you can do. And what I do is I come in this way, and then I usually spin it so it'll grab it. And there you go. And we didn't really nick up anything you would see there, so that's pretty good. So this is where it starts to get a little harder, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. So the first thing you want to do is we want to get part of this tire down into the drop center as best we can. And so that's the way that works. It'll hold it there as we try to work this thing around with levers. So I'm going to put one of these in, and then, yeah, see. And this is why people also use like a pair of vice grips or something up here, which you could use. But vice grips tend to still be a pain. Like, you know, it tends to do that crap unless you really wrench them down, and there's a way to do it without it, and I'll show you. So let's just make sure we've got enough lube here, and we do. So I said I'm not going to have to use my knee, but look, I'm using it. That's where multiple ones of these come in. Nope, that didn't work either. May have to tighten that. All right, there we go. See if we can keep going a little bit. There you go. And the best thing to note about this is you take small bites around here. The larger the bite, the harder it's going to be. So I'm going to come over to this side. Hopefully you can see. Get it in there. flip it over. I probably scratched a little. There we go. And now we can pretty much almost let it go. We've got enough. This thing's keeping the bead of the tire in the drop center. So let's just keep continuing. Go in, flip it over, and then take one more little bite, and we are home free. There it is. Okay, and I know there are people that are interested out there. How much damage do we do to the rim? Well, it looks like there's a little bit of scuff right there. One right there, a little bit right there, and a tiny bit right there. And that looks about it. So, you know, it's on the back side, you'll never see it, and this is super soft paint, like I said. But I think that's pretty good for tire spoons on 5-day-old Rust-Oleum paint to have very minimal scratching. And if it was, you know, cured 30 days or so, you probably wouldn't have any of that. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so all we got to do now is seat the bead. But before I do that, what I want to do is, this is an extra step I take, and this is one of the things you can do when you're mounting your own tires, is any crud or flecks of paint or anything that drop on this bead surface, and there is none on this because this is freshly painted, but on old rusty rims, like if you just take them to a tire shop, they're probably not going to take the extra step to go in here and just clean this bead up. And I've even been known to run a vacuum in here if I see anything that will cause a leak between the bead and the rim surface. So just want to be aware of that. I spend an extra couple of minutes and just go around and make sure it's you know, nice and clean. But that's it. That's how easy it is to mount a lawn and garden tire, or really any tire, because the bigger car tires would even be easier than that, with nothing more than just tire spoons. And this is a great holder to hold this while you're doing it. So all that's left to do now is seat this bead, and I can already tell you from experience, this is not going to get seated. We're either going to have to use ether and you know, kind of the explosion trick, or we're going to have to use a ratchet strap, which does not work on these. You can already see they're creased in the center, so it's just not going to seal that big gap right there. You could use the Murphy's tire butter compound and pack in there, but then you're going to leave half of it inside this rim. Not a big deal for lawn and garden, but a big deal if it was a car tire that you wanted to balance. So that's not a good idea. The best way to do it is with a bead bazooka, and I've got one on order, and it should be here in a few days. So maybe we'll make a part 2 to this. I will make a part 2 to this, and I'll show you how to use the bead bazooka. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. But that is how easy it is with the proper tools and a nice way of holding it so you don't have to fight with it on the floor to pop a tire on a rim. Hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching.